The courtroom lights burned with the quiet intensity of truth. The air inside wasn't just heavy with legal tension, it carried the quiet hum of morality waiting to be tested. Judge Judy Shaindlin adjusted her glasses and glanced toward the camera crew preparing for the next case. She didn't know yet that this episode would become one of the most talked-about moments in her decades-long career, one that would test not the law but humanity itself. That morning, in the waiting area, two people sat on opposite sides of the narrow bench, worlds apart in every possible way. Corinne Whitmore, age 38. Realtor, blonde highlights, designer handbag, the type who always needed the last word in every argument no matter how small. She sat with her legs crossed and her phone in hand, scrolling through social media, smirking to herself. Across from her sat Mark Reynolds, age 52. Retired Marine, one leg lost in the line of duty, a quiet, grounded man who carried an aura of dignity that didn't need to be spoken. His service dog, Buddy, a golden retriever with calm brown eyes, rested loyally by his side. Corinne didn't look up from her phone when Buddy shifted closer to Mark's leg. Instead, she made a face of mild disgust, wrinkling her nose. She muttered just loud enough for him to hear, "Does he have to be here?" Mark looked up. "He's a service animal, ma'am." Corinne gave a sarcastic chuckle. "Service animal, right, isn't that what everyone says now to bring their pets everywhere?" Mark didn't respond. He dealt with worse before, both in combat and in life. But when the bailiff called their names, the air shifted. All rise, case number 331 on the docket, Whitmore versus Reynolds. Inside the courtroom, cameras clicked on. Corinne straightened her blazer and plastered on a smile. Mark simply stood as best as he could, his metal leg clinking softly as he moved. Judge Judy entered, sharp and calm. "Good morning," she said curtly, scanning the case file. "Ms. Whitmore, you're suing Mr. Reynolds for $4,000 property damage and emotional distress. Let's start with you." Corinne nodded eagerly. "Yes, Your Honor, my neighbor Mr. Reynolds has been nothing but a nightmare. His dog broke through my fence, barks day and night, and frankly, it's been traumatizing. I can't even enjoy my home anymore. I just want to be compensated." Judy nodded slightly, expression unreadable. "And Mr. Reynolds?" Mark's voice was calm, deep, and respectful. "Your Honor, my dog didn't damage her fence. There was a storm last month, strong winds knocked part of it down. I offered to help fix it, but she told me to stay off her property." Corinne interrupted quickly. "That's because I didn't want to be responsible if he tripped with that metal leg of his and sued me." The courtroom went silent. The audience froze. Even Judy's pen stopped mid-note. Mark said nothing. He simply sat there, eyes forward, expression steady, though the sting was visible in the tightening of his jaw. Judge Judy looked up slowly. "Excuse me, Ms. Whitmore." Corinne blinked, feigning innocence. I just meant for safety reasons, Your Honor." "Safety," Judy repeated, her tone cool and edged. "You're concerned about his safety, but you said it like a joke." Corinne waved dismissively. "Oh, come on, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying everyone's supposed to tiptoe around him because he's a veteran. It's ridiculous. He gets special treatment for everything." The audience gasped quietly. Even the cameramen looked uneasy. Judge Judy leaned forward. "You're tired of veterans, Ms. Whitmore." Corinne shrugged. "I'm tired of people using their past to get sympathy." For the first time, Mark looked up directly at her, not angry, just deeply disappointed. His voice was low. "Ma'am, I don't need your sympathy, just your decency." That single line hit harder than any shout could. Judge Judy put her pen down. Her eyes were sharp now, the look everyone who'd ever watched her show knew well. It was the moment the real truth began to surface. "Mr. Reynolds," she said softly, "tell me about your dog." "His name's Buddy," Mark said. "I've had him 3 years. He's trained to help me walk and keep balance. When I fall, which happens sometimes, he barks until someone comes. It's saved me more than once." Corinne scoffed. "Yeah, well, he barks all day. It's not my fault if I can't tell the difference between an emergency and just noise." Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "Did you ever ask him about it or check if something was wrong?" Corinne hesitated. "No, why would I?" Judy leaned forward. "Because that's what neighbors and human beings do." The audience murmured approval. Corinne crossed her arms tightly. Mark stayed silent. He didn't gloat, he didn't even look at her. His stillness made her defensiveness look louder. Judge Judy turned her attention to the paperwork. Ms. Whitmore, you've submitted repair estimates for your fence, but this invoice is dated 6 months before Mr. Reynolds even moved in. Karen froze. That must be a mistake, she stammered. My assistant must have grabbed the wrong document. Your assistant, Judy said flatly, so it's their fault you submitted false evidence in a court of law. Karen's face reddened. No, I didn't mean. Stop talking, Judy interrupted sharply. You're making it worse. Mark sat quietly, hands folded. His composure was unshakable. Judy looked from one to the other, her voice lowered, calm and cutting. Ms. Whitmore, you brought this man to court because you couldn't stand the sound of his service dog, a dog trained to protect him after losing his leg defending your freedom. You faked paperwork, mocked his disability, and now you're standing here expecting sympathy. Karen's face crumpled slightly. I just wanted peace in my home, Your Honor. You don't understand what it's like to live next to. Next to what? Judy interrupted. A veteran, a man who served his country, someone who wakes up every day with pain you can't imagine and still smiles. The audience clapped softly. Judy didn't stop them. Karen's voice broke. I didn't mean it like that. Judy leaned back, her tone now quiet but final. Yes, you did, you just didn't expect the world to hear it. Karen looked down, her confidence finally gone. Your claim, Judy said, is denied, but before we close I have something to say. The courtroom fell silent again. Ms. Whitmore, people like Mr. Reynolds are the reason you get to complain freely, live safely, and walk without fear. When he lost his leg, he didn't lose his worth, you just lost your compassion. The words echoed through the room. Karen trembled, tears threatening to fall. Judy banged the gavel, case dismissed. The audience burst into applause. Cameras zoomed in on Mark, his calm, dignified expression, and then on Karen, her mascara smudging as she looked down at the floor. As the credits rolled on that episode, no one in the studio knew they had just captured a moment that would go viral across the internet. Within hours of airing, clips of Judge Judy's words flooded social media. Judge Judy destroys heartless neighbor. Veteran silences cruel woman with grace. Service dog story melts America's heart. Karen's name trended for all the wrong reasons. Her real estate page was flooded with angry comments. Clients canceled appointments. Strangers called her vile, arrogant, heartless. Meanwhile, Mark's world transformed in the opposite direction. Veterans reached out to thank him. Families sent letters of support. A local news channel invited him for an interview not about the court case but about his quiet strength. He accepted humbly. I didn't win anything, he said on camera. I just told the truth. I don't want her to be hated. I just hope she learns, that's all. And those words, the calm of forgiveness in a world that thrives on outrage, only made the story more powerful. But that wasn't the end. 3 weeks later, a plain white envelope arrived at Mark's doorstep. Handwritten, no return address, inside was a letter. Mr. Reynolds, you don't know me anymore, but I've been living with what I said every day. I saw myself on television and I didn't recognize that woman. I sounded cruel. I looked hateful. I hate that version of me. I'm sorry, I really am. Karen Whitmore. Mark sat in silence for a long time, the letter trembling in his hand. He didn't respond that night, but he didn't throw it away either. Outside, Buddy rested his head on Mark's knee. The veteran looked down, smiling faintly. What do you think, boy? People can change, right? Buddy wagged his tail. Mark looked toward the quiet street where the soft glow of porch lights shimmered against the night. Somewhere out there, Karen was probably sitting in her house, the same house where the fence once stood, realizing that no amount of walls could protect her from the truth inside herself. For the first time, Mark hoped she found peace too. Because justice wasn't about humiliation, it was about transformation. And though the world had already chosen sides, the veteran versus the cruel neighbor, Mark believed the story wasn't over yet. It was just beginning. The world has a strange way of humbling people. Sometimes all it takes is a moment of truth, one that plays on a screen for millions to see, to reveal who we really are. For Karen Whitmore, that moment had already aired. And it changed everything. In the weeks after her episode of Judge Judy broadcast nationwide, Karen's world didn't just crumble, it imploded. Her phone, once buzzing with calls from clients, now only rang with reporters and angry strangers. Her inbox filled with hate mail. Old friends avoided her. Even her mother had called and said softly, "Honey, what were you thinking?" The internet doesn't forgive easily. Clips of her mocking Mark, that metal leg thing, replayed endlessly on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. People remixed it, added captions like "the face of arrogance" and "when entitlement meets justice." At first, Karen tried to fight it. She posted a long apology video, tears carefully staged, lighting perfect, but people saw right through it. Comments flooded in. "She's only sorry she got caught. This isn't regret, it's PR damage control. You mocked a veteran lady, there's no coming back." Karen deleted the video within hours. Then she deleted her social media accounts entirely. For the first time in her adult life, silence filled her house, the kind of silence that doesn't bring peace but reflection. Days turned into weeks. The world moved on to the next scandal, but Karen couldn't move past herself. Every night she'd sit by the same window where she used to glare at Mark and his service dog. Now she stared into the empty street, haunted by the memory of her own words echoing in Judge Judy's courtroom. "You're tired of veterans." The question still burned in her mind, not because Judy had said it, but because deep down, Karen realized she had been tired, not of veterans, but of empathy. She had built a life obsessed with appearances, perfect clothes, perfect lawn, perfect image, but when life tested her humanity, it turned out hollow. It wasn't fame she lost, it was dignity. And so one morning she wrote the letter. Not to clear her name, not to rebuild her career, but simply because she needed to say it, "I'm sorry." A week passed before Mark Reynolds opened it. He read it once, then twice, then folded it carefully and placed it on his kitchen table. He didn't know whether to believe her or not. He had seen too many apologies born out of guilt, not growth. But something in the handwriting, the shaky pen strokes, the uneven letters felt real. "Guess she's trying, huh?" he muttered to Buddy. Buddy wagged his tail, his golden fur shining under the morning light. Mark poured himself a cup of coffee and thought. For years he'd been taught to stand tall, to endure, to move forward, but forgiveness, that was harder than any battle. Finally he decided. He wrote back. "Ms. Whitmore, I appreciate your letter. If you'd like to talk, I'm free this Friday. There's a cafe downtown called Miller's, 10 a.m. Mark Reynolds." He didn't expect her to show up. But she did. Friday came. The cafe was quiet, with the comforting hum of espresso machines and soft jazz in the background. Karen sat by the window, hands trembling around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She looked different, no heavy makeup, no blazer, just jeans, a sweater, and eyes that had finally lost their arrogance. When Mark walked in, leaning slightly on his cane, the room seemed to pause. She stood immediately. "Mr. Reynolds, thank you for coming." He nodded, his expression unreadable but not unkind. "I wasn't sure if I should." "I wouldn't blame you if you didn't," she said softly. "I just needed to face you, not a judge, not a camera, just you." Mark sat down. Buddy lay quietly under the table. Karen took a deep breath. "I was horrible, not just in court, before that too. I mocked you behind your back, complained about Buddy, acted like your existence was an inconvenience. I saw the episode and I hated who I was. I deserved everything that happened." Mark stirred his coffee. "Losing everything has a way of showing you what matters." "I thought success mattered," she said quietly. "Money, followers, perfect image, but it turns out decency is the only thing that can't be bought." He looked at her. "You're not wrong." They sat in silence for a long while, not the uncomfortable kind, but the reflective kind that comes when words aren't enough. Finally Karen asked, "Do you forgive me?" Mark sighed gently. "Forgiveness isn't something I can hand you like a receipt. It's something you earn every day by being different from who you were." Karen nodded. Tears in her eyes. "Then I'll try, I promise I'll try." Mark smiled faintly. "That's a start." She reached down, petting Buddy's head. "He's beautiful," she said. Mark chuckled softly. "He knows." For the first time they both laughed, quietly, genuinely. When they parted there was no grand gesture, no dramatic apology hug. Just two people, one who had been wounded, one who had done the wounding, walking in different directions, both a little lighter than before. Months passed. Karen began volunteering at a local VA hospital. No cameras, no hashtags, just work, real, unglamorous work. She served food, cleaned tables, and listened to veterans tell stories of loss, laughter, and life. At first, they were wary of her, but over time, her sincerity showed. She started fundraising for prosthetic programs. She spoke to schools about respect and empathy. The same mouth that once mocked was now helping rebuild understanding. And people noticed, quietly, but they did. Mark heard about it from another veteran. That woman from TV, the one who mouthed off to Judge Judy she's helping out at the center now, seems serious about it. He nodded, good, maybe she finally found her purpose. Then one day, out of the blue, Mark received another letter. This one was different, printed on official stationery. It was from Judge Judy's production team. Mr. Reynolds, we're filming a reunion special highlighting past cases that made a difference. Judge Judy personally requested your presence and Ms. Whitmore's if you're both willing. Mark hesitated. He wasn't sure he wanted to relive it, but something told him it might bring closure. He agreed. Months later, under the same courtroom lights where their story had begun, they met again. Karen walked in nervously, clutching a folder of papers. Mark entered with Buddy by his side, steady and composed as always. Judge Judy smiled slightly, a rare thing. Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Whitmore, it's been a while. Yes, Your Honor, Mark said politely. Karen nodded, thank you for having us back. Judy leaned back in her chair. Last time you were here, Ms. Whitmore, you left this courtroom as a lesson in arrogance. The world saw it, but I've heard you've been working hard to change that. Karen's voice was steady, though her hands trembled. Yes, Your Honor, I've been volunteering with veterans for almost a year. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to earn it. Judy turned to Mark. And you, Mr. Reynolds, what do you think? Mark smiled faintly. I think we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after them. The audience clapped softly. Judy's expression softened. Justice, she said slowly, isn't just about punishment, it's about redemption. When we forget that, we stop being human. Karen looked at Mark and smiled through her tears. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, you earned it. Buddy barked once softly, almost as if approving. The audience laughed warmly, and for the first time both of them smiled in the same frame, no resentment, no guilt, just peace. As they left the courtroom, Judge Judy watched them go and murmured to her bailiff, some cases stick with you, not because of the fight but because of how it ends. The bailiff nodded, that one had a happy ending. Judy smiled, no, it had a human one. Outside, the California sun burned bright. Mark walked toward the parking lot, Buddy trotting beside him. Karen stopped him halfway. Mark. He turned. She handed him a small donation envelope. It's for the prosthetics program, I know it's not much, but... He interrupted gently, it's not about the money, Karen, it's about showing up. She smiled, then I'll keep showing up. Mark extended his hand, deal. They shook hands, and in that quiet handshake, unseen by cameras, unnoticed by the world, forgiveness finally found its home. As Mark drove away, Buddy curled up in the passenger seat. Another good day, huh boy, he said. Buddy barked once. Mark smiled, watching the road ahead. Yeah, feels like justice finally did its job. The clip from the reunion show aired months later. It didn't go viral for its drama, but for its heart. Commenters wrote things like, finally a redemption story. This shows people can change. Judge Judy didn't just serve justice, she taught humanity. Karen never returned to real estate. Instead, she started a nonprofit helping veterans find housing. She called it Buddy's Home Project. Mark joined as an advisor. They didn't become best friends, but they remained connected by something stronger than friendship, respect. Sometimes they'd meet for coffee and Buddy would sit between them, tail wagging, as if guarding the fragile bridge they had built between two very different lives. Months later, during a stormy evening, Karen sat by her window again, the same spot where she once glared in judgment. But this time she didn't see a nuisance outside, she saw meaning. She whispered softly to herself, I can't change who I was, but I can decide who I'll be tomorrow. And for the first time, her reflection didn't look like someone pretending to have it all together. It looked like someone trying, genuinely trying, to make things right. Outside, thunder rolled. Buddy barked somewhere in the distance, loyal as ever. Karen smiled. That bark no longer annoyed her, it reminded her of Grace. Because in the end, Judge Judy's words had come true. The next time you hear that dog bark, remember it's not attacking you, it's protecting someone better than you'll ever be. And now, finally, she understood what those words really meant. They weren't an insult. They were a challenge. A challenge to become better, kinder, human. And she accepted.